Donald Trump says that one of the reasons for his crackdown on Smithsonian museums is, quote, everything discussed is how bad slavery was. But on this topic, it's important to say objectively, slavery was indeed bad.
So let me be honest in saying, in contrast to Trump, slavery is bad. Oh! The premise for this is on Tuesday, President Trump posted on Truth Social. He said, the museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. Woke, the last one. Vestiges, last ones. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. Hugs, not slugs. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. So, before we get, do we have the first Abby clip, or we're just going to go with the video, the whole video?
You want to set it up with her meltdown?
Okay, so we'll set this. So he was saying, and to be really clear, these museums just focus on slavery and not the great success, also ending slavery, not the optimistic future that America offers, which is why more people want in this country than anywhere else. I want to ask you this. When you read that, did you think at any point that Donald Trump said slavery is good? Or that Donald Trump, President Trump, even implied that slavery wasn't bad? Because that's exactly how Abby Phillip took it when she had her meltdown.
I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Last week on this show, a guest shocked the table by arguing in part that slavery in America can't just be blamed on one race, and that museums put too much focus on the role of white people who participated in that terrible institution.
Let's just cut. Okay, look. She uploaded this, and it didn't go how she thought it was going to go because these people live in an echo chamber, and they're completely tone deaf. So I'm going to go through this in real time, just to be clear, and point by point, why everything she says is wrong, it's dishonest, it's misleading, and Americans are tired of it. Let's just start playing the upload from Abby herself, thinking, hey, this is convincing.
Donald Trump says that one of the reasons for his crackdown on Smithsonian museums is, quote, everything discussed is how bad slavery was. What we try to do on this program is create a platform for discussion and debate that reflects the very real differences that exist in this country. It's what echo chambers in our society fail to do, frankly. Okay. But on this topic, it's important to say objectively, slavery was indeed bad.
Pause. Pause. See what she just did there? This is how she starts it off. Mm-hmm. By the way, she starts it off by saying someone here said that we can't just attribute slavery to one race. That's true, though. That's true. I don't know if you know this, but slavery is practiced by every race on the planet, except for, right now, in 2025, white people. Western civilization. It's practiced by Asians. It's practiced by Arabs. It's practiced all across the continent of Africa. So you can say that that's offensive somehow, but it's accurate. And right here she goes, we don't want echo chambers. This echo chamber is not a good thing. We want real debate and the real differences. So let me be honest in saying, in contrast to Trump, slavery is bad. Oh, looks to me like you're in an echo chamber because somehow you think that Donald Trump, or wait, maybe you don't, you're lying and want to misrepresent President Trump's position as though in any fashion, state, form, he implied that slavery was okay. Let's keep playing.
It was evil, the nation's original sin. And it is impossible to understand the true history of this country without fully grappling with slavery's impact.
Pause. No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. It is impossible to understand the history of the United States without first understanding the history of the world. That's important. You want to start off with the United States, but that's it's entirely disingenuous. Let me just sort of make the case here. Throughout all of human history, the world practiced slavery. That's why it happened in the United States. The world practiced slavery. The world enslaved people. The world then sold those slaves to the one country who had the conscience and enshrined it into their constitution that they were uniquely going to end this evil. So you want to start with the United States? Let's start with the world, because then when you add up 1,000 years of civilization, it's kind of unique. It's kind of unique that a free country, that a new country, in the span of only a couple of hundred years, ended something that went on for thousands of years everywhere else, including the cradle of civilization. I should also, one caveat, sorry. We ended it here in the Western world, because I don't know if you know this, it's still the way of the world outside of your privileged bubble. 50 million slaves on Earth today, more than ever in human history. How do you think that happens? You think maybe an understanding of world history might give you some context? Let's keep playing.
Simply because of their birthplace and the color of their skin, the bodies and spirits of black men, women, and children were exploited for profit and power.
Pause. By whom? By whom? Who exploited? Let me ask you this. Who exploited them? Who enslaved them before selling them? Who actually captured them, beat them, and enslaved them for, that's right, people in Africa. By the way, also because of the color of their skin, who was enslaved? Black people, just to be clear. People were enslaving their own people. So this idea that people were enslaved exclusively because of their race, well, hold on a second. How does that make sense when Arabs were enslaving Arabs, when Asians were enslaving Asians, and when Africans, black Africans, were enslaving black Africans? Who profited? Who exploited? Yeah, slavery's bad, of course. We ended it. I think we kind of deserve credit for that. We did something. White Americans did something that black Africans never did. And still, all across Africa, have yet to do. Who's the exploiter? Who is the guilty party? The purveyor? The actual owner of the slaves selling them? Or the consumer who at that point is taking part in practice in the way of the world throughout all of human history? Let's continue.
Were forced onto ships, bound by shackles and collars that ripped off their skin. One older man described it as iron entering our souls. Some chose to jump into the waters infested with sharks rather than feel that iron.
Pause. That's also disingenuous. He wasn't able to swim. The sharks were incidental. Continue.
Now, once they arrived on this very soil, they were forced to work by way of the whip, despite being starved, sleep-deprived, threatened, tortured, physically and psychologically. They were auctioned off, humiliated, fearful, and separated from their families and their children. Black women and girls were raped and sexually assaulted. Many were brutally murdered and mutilated.
Pause. Okay, look, all of that, of course, is horrible. And I'm glad that it's ended here in the United States and the Western world. I would like to see it end in the cradle of civilization where it still takes place. Yeah. Who forced them onto ships? You say auctioned off. Why don't you talk about how they got it? They were auctioned off. They were auctioned off before they were forced onto ships. I get it. This is horrible treatment. Is it worse than the treatment of the enslavers in the cradle of civilization, by the way, where again, it still happens? Wouldn't you at least give credit to, if you have two parties who are equally immoral and reprehensible in their treatment, wouldn't you prefer the party who had one of the bloodiest wars of all time to end it? Oh, that's right. Sorry. We're including the context of world history. By the way, just to be clear, I know I'm moving too fast for you, Abby. Slavery's bad. No one's saying that slavery's good. This is, the word you like to use, nuance. We wouldn't want an echo chamber. Let's continue.
Now, this endured for decades, centuries. And even in the places where slavery was not legal, institutions from our banks to universities were built on enslaved labor.
Pause.
In both the North and in the South.
Okay. Here's where I'm going to lose some of you because we're not supposed to say what I'm about to say. But it is the God's honest truth. This trope that blacks built America, that black people are responsible for building America. Sure, there were slaves, and sure, they were forced into labor against their will. They weren't the only ones. Less than 0.3% of the slave population on Earth went to North America, just so you know. So actually far fewer here than, in Africa or in Asia or anywhere else, frankly, in the world. It would be redundant for me to go through it. Is it any place that's not North America? Then the answer is yes. They had more slaves. But here, it was built off the backs of black people. They are responsible for building America. Okay, we have a controlled study here. Okay? Slaves in North America, largely black. Not only, but largely black. Slaves in Africa, black. Slave owners in Africa, black. Slave owners in the United States, white. Why do you think the United States is different? If it was built off the backs of black people, well, then Africa would have a leg up because they have both the slaves and the slave owners are black. They should be super America. They should be far ahead of the game. So maybe in the United States, it was built up in spite of taking part in the world history practiced slave trade, not because of it. If both continents have slaves, and only one has white slave owners who at the inception of this country said, we have the intent at some point to end this slavery, but couldn't do it yet because really hadn't been thought of, and the other country has black slave owners. What's the difference? Why do we say only black people built America? And why haven't black people built America in Africa? Something colonialism. Let's go.
And for many of the white Americans who did not personally own slaves, they benefited from a caste system that concentrated wealth and political power in their hands.
Pause. Okay. So this is the no-win scenario because, as we know, we heard Joy Reid talk about this earlier in the week. Those who have benefited from white privilege, those who have benefited from white supremacy, meaning even if you are not one but you're white, need to sit down and shut up because Harriet Tubman was actually harmed by being helped from white people who were the benefactors of white supremacy. So I guess in this case, we're kind of glad that they did, that the people who benefited from it fought the bloodiest war in history to end it. Also, let's look at this logically. If the people who still stood to benefit from slavery, meaning the people who didn't take part in it but were in a country where it was practiced, decided to end it, wouldn't that tell you that the United States, in contrast to the rest of the world, was such a deeply moral people of such great conviction that despite their own selfish interests, they were going to die to free people in the name of doing what is right? And by the way, how do they know what's right? Because they followed Judeo-Christian principles. Oh, wait, maybe that's why you still haven't seen the crisis of conscience from the noble black slave owners in Africa. Doesn't that deserve credit? And I know you'll say, the British Empire. The British Empire, technically, if you want to say that ended slavery but they weren't even talking about it before it was a conversation here, and there were still plenty of indentured servants throughout the British Empire after we actually freed the slaves. It was the way of the world. And to me, something, if you want to, hey, this is what Donald Trump is saying. What about the optimism? What about the hope? What about the contributions to the world? If you don't look at the rest of the world and you just blame the United States as though it's the original sin, you don't understand that the only reason people are free, and they're only free in the Western civilized world, is because of the United States, something that never would have happened and still hasn't happened. The continent of Africa, Asia, and by the way, a lot of Europe. Let's let her finish this out.
When we acknowledge the existence of black people who operated George Washington's Mount Vernon or the black hands that built the White House, we are acknowledging the existence, the perseverance, and the contributions of the souls that white supremacy sought to erase. Those people built families, they developed a culture, they were the keepers of the faith, cultivators of community. And they are the ones who deserve credit for forcing America to rid itself of the stain of slavery.
Hold on, let me finish this. I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off. Using her premise, right? Because they were under the shackles and white supremacy is the reason for slavery. White supremacy is the reason for slavery. Okay, that again is just illogical when you understand that non-white people practice slavery. But then you would have to argue, or you would have to accept, rather, that if the United States is based on white supremacy and that's the reason for slavery, American white supremacy is the reason that any black people are free. Because blacks in Africa weren't going to do it. And if it's so white supremacy based, let me ask you another question. Why is the only race of people on the planet in 2025, the only race of people who don't engage in slavery, white people? Black people do it, Asian people do it, Arabic people do it. Yep. One exception. Western white civilization, the cradle of white supremacy, according to you, is the only reason that any slaves were freed and that anywhere in the world, which is exclusively reserved to the Western civilized world, that slavery no longer exists. Sounds to me like if you're a black slave still in Africa today, in 2025, one of the 50 million people, or one of the Asian sex slaves right now on the planet, one of 50 million people, you could use a whole lot more white supremacy. Hope you see that white supremacy cavalry coming over that hill. They're making changes now, to be clear, at these museums, because some of the slavery exhibits, I will grant, my white guilt talking, are tough to look at. And, you know, I get it. I wouldn't want to look at that either, which is exactly why they're making changes. It would have been funny if you were a little quicker there.
I mean, the timing does help.
Ah, come on. He looks like, he got over it.
Got a nice ice cream now.
Ice cream fixes a lot of things, maybe not everything. Just depends.
You had some things to say there, Joe?
I absolutely did. Listen, slavery was okay.
You had to go,
I don't agree with him. You heard him. I don't agree with it.
you had to go with mint chocolate chip.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Can you do something
My
else? No,
favorite.
This argument, President Trump is making a very reasonable argument because
Who wants a grilled cheese?
here's how I know. Here's how I know. Nobody was shocked at what they saw. Nobody's shocked by that picture. Nobody's shocked by the stats that she was showing, or ships with people, or jumping overboard because of the iron in the soul. Nobody's shocked by that because we know it. We hate that it happened.
Right.
But
Yeah, we're over
being
it.
Taught. What he's saying is, hey, can we teach that while also teaching that white people fought a bloody war that nearly killed our country to make sure it didn't happen anymore? Can we also teach that we have fought for 160 plus years to make the very best of this situation that we possibly could? And it has cost people's lives. It has cost people's comfort. It's cost everything that they can lay on the line post-Emancipation Proclamation to make sure that this country achieved the purpose for which it was founded. Can we just admit that? And by the way, if that's not enough, it's been over 160 years, black people. Get over it and move on. Okay, I feel better.
Yeah, well.
I can't believe I'm the most tame person here on the subject.
They wanted a clip.
I actually
They
feel
got
out
a
of
clip.
place.
It just pisses me off. Like, if nobody likes any of this. You said it. Nobody likes the fact that this country had slavery.
Well, how
But
do you know
can't
that?
look at just one piece of the story.
Hey, don't
It's almost
speak for
this-
me, man.
And
It's
this-
like, hey, they crucified this guy in Jerusalem somewhere, and then stopping the story.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
yes, of course they did.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot more that happened. You got to tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. And this idea that America was built by blacks. No. This is the only show where you will hear someone condemn slavery, make the case as to why slavery was ended based on Christian grounds.
Yes.
While also making a joke about how black people can't swim and a slave exhibit.
It's true.
Also one of my favorite memes of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. If Africans built America, then why does Africa look like Africa?
That's very, yes.
My grandfather laid railroad track.
Right.
Okay? He cut his fingers off while building the factory that he worked in for the rest of his life, a shoe factory. He fell from a stage and collapsed.
Wow.
Broke his back.
Yeah.
Building the building that he worked in for the rest of his life.
Wow.
Not his finger, but yeah, no, blacks built it.
By the way, do you know how long it took to build the Empire State Building?
Yeah.
About a year. About a year.
Yeah.
I want to say it was 10. It's either
Nice
10
when
months or
OSHA doesn't exist.
It's either 10 or 11 months or 13 months. It's either 1 month over or 1 month under a year, the bulk of it.
Imagine we'd still be trying to get the permits under Newsom.
Yeah, think of how long it took to do anything at the World Trade Center.
1 year, 45 days.
1 year, 45 days.
Now
That's
listen,
a lot of
13
Italians
months.
and Irish.
Yep.
I'm not saying that we should have those pictures anymore where people are walking around up there without any harnesses or anything eating lunch, but I'm just saying we built stuff pretty
A
fast.
lot of people got Final Destination to buy
They
steel
did.
lunchboxes.
They did.
Yeah. And building the tunnels.
Yeah, I mean, just
Stuff like that.
when you see those guys
No
up
broads,
there,
by the way.
you're like, they don't even have they don't have a safety harness. There's like, yeah.
That
If
is
you don't like
insane.
that guy,
That's
if you don't
nuts.
like the guy, you're like,
I always think
Carl.
that's the Little Rascals when I see that.
Oh, he's a Yankees fan? Not anymore.
Just a dog with a bullseye walks out.
We got a job opening up here.
My gosh, it's a different breed of people.
was.
No, it was only black.
Who wants my Twinkies?
This one's for Nick. I just threw this in because I thought it'd be funny. So slavery can be funny. It's wrong,
But
but it's good for a laugh sometimes. So this is to give you an idea as to how slavery is still going on. A 19-year-old, and of course it's not funny that he was enslaved. The way that it happened
yeah.
is kind of funny. 19-year-old Chinese man was sold into slavery by his 17-year-old girlfriend.
Wow.
It was honeypot slavery. Gotcha, bitch. So they met at a billiard hall. The girl, Zhu, persuaded this boy, Huang, to come work at a family business in
always the
Myanmar.
Jews.
Yeah. The Jews control the billiard halls.
Yeah, the Jews are on the billiard halls, the media. The Zulus. I mean, the Jews.
And
Control the world.
then she actually traveled with him to Bangkok. And
Hawang, Bangkok. What the fuck?
so they went through this whole thing, honeypot, like, yeah, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Right.
And she was being paid to lure him. Then at Myanmar, it says Zhu falsely claimed she needed to pick someone up and just left the guy. And then they took him.
Goodbye.
And they, and they basically locked him into a telecom fraud compound in Myanmar.
Where they just work you to death.
They just work you to make fraudulent phone scam calls.
Yes.
But
I
think
did
about
that out of college.
At least you did it, but you did it willingly.
I did.
Yeah, you
Next
weren't
thing I could've been
enslaved by a
honeypot.
Jew.
I was trying to sell rare coins over the phone. I had to wear a suit and everything. It was like going to Wall Street. Really? Yes. And when I went back to college, a week before I went back, I see my boss being let out of the skyscraper in Boston in handcuffs by the feds. Yes.
Well, that was a nicer experience than Zoo.
I'm on the phone trying to sell a double eagle, $50,000. I don't even know what an IRA is at that point. Oh my God, it was the best job ever. I never sold anything.
It's like boring boiler room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's very official and
Nobody making any money.
Vin Diesel come in. Did you sell the coins?
just like Wall Street, though. Remember they come in,
Yeah.
the feds arrest
Oh,
Charlie?
yeah.
That's just how it went down.
By the way, the reason it's
different.
the guy was freed. Huang was finally returned to China. There was a $50,000 ransom that was paid. But again, this doesn't always end this way. 50 million plus slaves on Earth. And they're getting very clever about it. Now, I think this is too much effort. I think if you're going to cross that line morally, which you should not, slavery is bad.
Right.
You don't need to honeypot them. You just knock them over the head and put them in a van.
Yeah, this is like the worst catfish ever. Yeah. And she got paid $13,900. Like that's a lot of money to get paid to,
Yeah.
How many people can you sucker into going to Myanmar with you?
And half that went up her nose. I dated this bitch. Listen.
That's how you ended up selling coins. Slavery's still a thing. That's the thing. I just want you to know, slavery is still a thing. And anyone in the United States who demands that we send aids for aid to Africa without simultaneously demanding that we send in the most violent fighting force in existence to end slavery across that continent should really shut up because they're being disingenuous.
Can we pull that back up? Look at the chart in the bottom left. India. They're number one in something. First it was poop in the streets, and now this.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not the only thing.
Jeez.
Yeah. They just call them indentured servants.
That's diarrhea.
Yeah, but they're like, we thought, okay, like China, yeah, that's bad. They're going to tie you to a loom until you, whatever. And India's like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like, get pissed.
Yes.
Just,
Yeah.
geez, that's
Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second
Wow.
because people did eat, pray, love. I love India. It's very spiritual. Can you get the slave? Gross.
Yeah. Ew.
Hey, you know what? If you're going to look to find spirituality of all the world religions, how about you don't start with the one that still permits slavery, dummy? Oh, you're still here? And you're still watching this on YouTube? You've probably noticed something is missing by now. I'm not here. That's because the Live Daily Show is now streaming exclusively on Rumble weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Tune in there, where nothing is censored.